The Sooners roll into T-Town and take down the Tide, and Georgia extends their warm welcome to the Texas Longhorns and beat them once again. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about, obviously, the Oklahoma Sooners going into Alabama and pulling out the crazy win, and then Texas getting dominated by Georgia in between the hedges. Starting off, let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners game. First thing I want to say about this is what a win for Brent Venables and company. This was a huge win for Oklahoma to give themselves a chance at still making the playoffs. This is that game that 3 weeks ago, including me, I didn't think, actually 3 days ago, before the game, I didn't think we could win. This was a game that everyone had circled as Bama's going to win, Sooners will be out of playoff contention. Well, Brent Venables came up, this defense showed up and proved all of the haters wrong and said, this is why the Sooners team is for real, because Brent Venables has his defense rolling at the perfect time. One big thing I said in my preview and all the talking heads were saying is that the only way to beat Bama is to turn them over, and they're a team that doesn't turn the ball over almost at all. And today, the Oklahoma Sooners were able to force them 3 turnovers. They got 2 forced fumbles and an interception, 2 that were recovered. They forced like 4, it seemed like. So they were really able to turn this Tide team over and make them uncomfortable and put them in situations they haven't been yet this season. This Alabama team really has not been in a situation where they were losing, except for at Florida State early in the season in Game 1. This is the first time a team has really been able to get to Ty Simpson in the backfield and rattle him all day. And credit to the Sooners and credit to the D-line, who was missing their best player probably on the team overall in R. Mason Thomas. But guess what? They stood up. PJ Adebawore, Taylor Wine, Owen Heineke, David Stone, all those guys stepped up when the moment was called and they had to, and props to them for that. And then let's talk about it. Tate Sandell, in my opinion, the best kicker in the country. 18 for 18 on his last 18 field goals, 7 for 7 on 50-plus yarders this year. He has the best leg in the country, and he doesn't miss. That's the thing. He should be in the running for the Lou Groza Award at the end of the year. And the other key player in this game is, guess what? The Bowen brothers. Eli Bowen with a pick 6. All week we talked about Ty Simpson does not throw interceptions. Eli Bowen forced the biggest interception of the year to take it back to the house for 7 points. On a night where the Sooners offense really wasn't getting a ton going, the defense stepped up once again, just like they did in Knoxville, and they were able to get a defensive touchdown and turn them over. And then at the end of the game comes down to it. It's a 4th and 6. One play, the Tide have to get a first down. Peyton Bowen with a textbook perfect pass breakup to win the football game. I think this is a game that it's really hard to say that Oklahoma outplayed Alabama, because for 90% of this football game, they didn't. When Oklahoma had the ball on offense, they weren't able to sustain drives. They couldn't get drives over 5 minutes in clock time. They couldn't get the passing game going. John Mateer only had 150 passing yards, but did he play probably one of his better games of the season? Yes. And why is that? Because he didn't turn the ball over. He never put the ball in harm's way. He never gave Alabama a chance to capitalize on his mistakes. He played a smart, clean game knowing that his defense was able to get what they needed done. All they had to do was manage the game, and he did that great. One big key for Oklahoma's defense here is they were able to do what I said and keep Bama one-dimensional. Everyone knew Bama had been one-dimensional, but are you going to be that team who lets them run the football? You don't want to be. And Oklahoma came in today not wanting to be. They came out there and made Alabama one-dimensional, which guess what? Safeties can guess pass. The D-line can come home and eat. Pressure gets there better. And Alabama's running backs aren't great at picking up the blitz, so Oklahoma's linemen were able to get pressure on Ty Simpson. And one of the stats for Ty Simpson was when he has a clean pocket, he's the best quarterback in the country, hands down. When the pocket is dirty and it's not a clean pocket, his accuracy is way down. All night he was missing high, missing low. He wasn't putting the ball in the hands of receivers. It was by far Ty Simpson's worst game, and that's a full credit to Brent Venables' defense. And now talking about the Crimson Tide, this game, they could afford to lose it. Oklahoma couldn't. Oklahoma had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Bama didn't have to win, but the revenge factor from last year, it wasn't there. This Bama team, because of the transfer portal or whatever you want to say, they didn't have that revenge factor. And now Oklahoma has their number. Since they've been in the SEC, OU is 2-0 against Alabama. When can Alabama get over the hump and beat Oklahoma? That's Alabama's question. This game was truly the first game we watched Alabama play a sloppy football game since playing at Florida State where they lost by 14. This game, they had a lot of sloppy turnovers. They had a lot of dumb penalties. It just didn't look very Alabama-esque in the stat sheet, but they weren't able to pull it out. And granted, they almost did. They were close. They had a fourth quarter drive to go win the game, but Oklahoma's defense pulled through. For Alabama, my biggest question is Kalen DeBoer had a decision when there's about 6.5 minutes left in this football game. Do we want to go quick and try to score points and then kick it back off to Oklahoma? Or do we want to take all this time? Well, if you watched Oklahoma's offense all day, I would rather go fast and make Oklahoma's offense beat me, where instead Kalen DeBoer chose, let's make Oklahoma's defense beat me, which any Oklahoma player and any Oklahoma fan would say, that plays right into our hands. You're going to make our defense go win the game. The defense only allowed 21 points to you all day. That was a gift to Oklahoma, and they capitalized on it. I think that was a question that Kalen DeBoer is going to get asked a lot on. Why was that his decisions? And it's a great question. It's a good question to ask. I think another question Kalen DeBoer is going to get is, what is with the failure to run the football? Why can't they run the football this year? If you think about all the great Alabama teams under Nick Saban, what did they have? An elite run game. Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Najee Harris. Those are just some of the running backs Alabama has that they turn into Heisman contenders every year. I think overall, my overall takes for this game were Oklahoma wanted it more. Their defense went out there and proved they wanted it. After the game, the Oklahoma players had shirts on that said hard to kill. They are a hard team to kill because of that defense. If they can keep this up, everything is in front of them now. It was 2 weeks ago. They've won 2 really, really tough road games in Knoxville and in Bryant-Denny. Now they have 2 easier games at home. They have to go beat a third-string quarterback in Matt Zollers versus Missouri, and they have to go beat a Garrett Nussmeier-less LSU team with the interim head coach, and the playoffs are there. If this team can win out and all the dominoes fall in the favor, this team is definitely a playoff team and probably going to be able to host a first-round playoff game. For Alabama, what's tricky here is you lost this game, so you have 2 losses now. You're not going to make the SEC championship, and now you have to go to Jordan-Hare and play at Auburn with a chance to make the playoffs. Auburn has no coach. They have nothing to play for. That's a tough spot to be for Alabama. Yes, is Auburn horrible this year? Absolutely. It's a rivalry game with those kind of implications. Auburn fans are going to be there. They're going to be loud. They're going to show up. And there's always some weird voodoo magic at Jordan-Hare. Can Auburn pull it off and knock Bama out? Or will Bama be able to blow back that punch after the Oklahoma loss and make the playoffs? And speaking of a punch, Georgia Bulldogs punched Texas in the mouth to knock their teeth out. This is a blowout. After the third quarter, really, surprisingly somehow, Texas kept this game close into the third quarter. It was 14-10 after a Texas touchdown. And where this game truly turned was Georgia gets a touchdown, then the following drive to make it 21-10. And what'd they do? Kirby Smart with the cojones. He goes out there and onside kicks it and gets the ball back, and they go score again to make it 21-10. And at that point, Texas looked defeated on the sidelines. Their players looked defeated. It was over at that point. Kirby Smart whipped out the play that won the game. Kirby Smarted himself into a win today. For Georgia, they've been able to run the football. The last game, they were able to run the football for over 150 yards with Nate Frazier. Today, against a great Texas defensive line. They are a great defensive line. You have to give them their flowers. But Georgia had their numbers today and was able to run all over them. For Georgia, they're peaking at their best time right now. When's the best time to peak in college football? The end of the year. We looked at it with Notre Dame. They lost 2 games early, but they're peaking right now, and they're high in the rankings. Georgia lost that 1 game to Bama. After that, they're peaking. Their defense looked the best it's looked all season today. Their D-line looked the best. It actually got to the backfield and got to the quarterback. Their secondary looked good against the Texas wide receivers, who are very shifty, fast in space. Texas secondary was able to wrap them up and limit the yards after catch. And the biggest thing is that this was Georgia's true first complete game. We've watched them all these other games come out slow in the first half. Today, they came out fiery in the first half, got themselves to a quick lead, which I said in my preview, and after that, it was just a coast to the win. And for Georgia, Texas made so many mistakes tonight, and Georgia capitalized on all of them. They were able to take advantage of the moment better than Texas was, and that is the key reason they were able to blow this game open and win it. For Texas, there's really not a lot great to talk about in this game. The running backs weren't great. The receivers weren't great. They couldn't catch a football to save their lives in this game. Arch Manning, I think, actually played a pretty good game. He had the 1 interception, but aside from that, I think he played a pretty good game. given the circumstances at Georgia. It's a tough place to win, but he went out there and did what he had to. It's not his fault that Ryan Wingo couldn't catch a football. Emmett Mosley couldn't catch a football. Those aren't on him. Those are on the receivers. Against Oklahoma, Texas was able to run the football, and their O-line rose to the occasion. I said, will it happen again? They failed to do that. Until Texas can run the football well and establish a better O-line, they're not going to be winning a lot of games in the postseason if they make the playoffs. I think that losing this game will eliminate them. You heard Kirk Herbstreit saying that there's a chance. It is going to take every domino to fall in the correct spot and in their favor to make the playoffs. There's just too many good teams at 10-2 this year that I think will happily push Texas at 9-3 out of the way. It was the same with Oklahoma. If Oklahoma loses again, they're out of there. This is a year where 9-3 just isn't going to cut it with how many 10-2 teams we have. For Texas, you have to look at this and look at what can we go capitalize on. If you're Steve Sarkisian, you have to go now prep for the Texas A&M game. And in that game, you're going to look at a couple of things. We had 9 penalties. We have to fix the sloppiness. We had almost 9 drops, it feels like. Maybe, I think it was 6 or maybe 7 or 8. It was a lot of drops in this football game. You have to clean up on those. If you're Steve Sarkisian, you got to go tell your team, we cannot play worse than we did against Georgia. If we do go do 1.5 times as good and we're at home, we have a real shot at beating Texas A&M. I think one of the biggest things I saw on that football field for Texas was Anthony Hill may have been the best player for the Texas team all year. He had the interception. He had a ton of tackles. He was out there flying around. He is a true first-round talent. He might even be a top 20 pick in the draft. That is how good he is. I really wanted Oklahoma to get him in the recruiting cycle. Texas, y'all got a really good one. I think for Steve Sarkisian, another good thing to point to is in between that second and third quarter, Texas was able to force 4 straight punts, and a lot of them were bad punts because they were explicitly punting away from Ryan Niblett. The bad thing, though, is you scored 0 points off them and you punted the ball right back or turned it over. Texas has to get better at capitalizing on opponents' mistakes. We watched that Texas team play a complete football game against Oklahoma, and they blew Oklahoma out. Against Texas A&M, if Texas can pull off the recipe they did against Oklahoma, which was run the football well, O-line block well, D-line get home and sack the quarterback, the receivers get open in space and create after the catch, this Texas team has every recipe to go beat Texas A&M as a home game. Can they do that is the other question. This year, I don't think so. But as a Texas fan, you have to be happy. You have a young quarterback in Arch Manning coming in, first year as a starter, a 9-3 season if you go beat A&M, or a 10-3 season, or even a 9-4 season after a win in a bowl game. That's not a bad year. The expectations at the beginning were higher than that, but I think after we all watched the Ohio State game, we knew they weren't winning the championship. Now let's go see how can Texas bounce back and bring this team back with so much continuity next year, and I think they're a real dangerous threat in the SEC for next season. Remember, everybody, these are just my takes, so make sure to leave y'all's down in the comments, and when you're down there, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and noti bell. Thank y'all for tuning back in. Boomer.